समाधिस्थस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाषेत किमासीत व्रजेत किम्. Let us chant the whole verse together. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthitadhi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. So in this verse, Arjuna asks, that which we are all asking. See, when we hear about such a figure, man of realization, person of realization, then Arjuna has this question. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. Ka bhasha means what is the description, what is the words that are used to describe this person who is what? Samadhistha. Stha means to be fixed, staying in samadhi. Samadhi means that state of pure realization. And sthita prajna. Sthita prajna means one who is prajna. Because remember, buddhi vyatitarishyati. It is the buddhi that crosses over all delusion and confusion. That is the problem, is confusion. And who is the one that has to cross over? Buddhi. So, who is the one who is crossed over? One whose buddhi is also fixed. Sthita prajna. Sthita also comes from this root stha. Stha means to stay, fixed. So tasya, samadhis tasya, fixed in samadhi. One who, and what does it mean to be fixed in samadhi? One's intellect, buddhi, is sthita, fixed, firm, you know. Now, one example that our Swamiji used to tell us is in next week, hopefully, we'll get a chance to announce something very special, but there is going to be the availability of a family camp in Trinidad in August. So you all think about that. It's going to be mid-August, 13th to 21st, and you can see for yourselves. But there's one 85-foot Hanumanji in, I think there's one in Dallas or in Texas also. But there's one 85-foot Hanumanji. And before they fixed that Hanuman, they were there when it was built. I think maybe 12, 15 years ago was when they built it. And what they had to do is, if the statue is going to go up 85 feet, do you know what they have to prepare first? The foundation. They had to dig 60 feet and cast 60 feet worth of concrete below in order for that structure to come up. It's quite interesting. Now, why is that? Because, in fact, I was reading about how these skyscrapers, they are built, and the higher a building goes, the more it has to face things like wind. You can imagine any storm, or even just in a regular sense, if the wind is blowing, what happens is that force of the wind is so high, especially the higher you go in the stories, and that building has to be built in such a way that it can withstand that. Hmm? And not only is it built to withstand, but it endures. You look at some of these ancient temples also, how they have built in stone to withstand so many forces. So even in a worldly sense, we can see how deep the foundation has to go in order for a structure to be solid and stable. So also, one who is in the state of samadhi, they are fixed in a permanent way. They are not constantly wavering. We were talking about that also in our teacher's class. They're not wavering between one day feeling, oh, I am this body, I am this jiva, I am subject to birth and death. And then for half an hour, they feel, no, 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 I am Brahman. But they are fixed in that. They are totally, you know, in that state completely. They don't come in and out. They are not subject to any return. That is what they say, right? Go and no return. Hmm? So Arjuna asks, what is the description of this person, of Sthita Prajna? What is it like when they are fixed in this way? Hmm? Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha. Then he asks, it's a very funny question actually. He says, Kim asita vrajeta kim. How is this person? Uh, Stitadi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. Prabhasheta means how do they speak? Prabhasha. How do they utter their words? How do they even sit in one place? How do they uh, eat or function? All these different ways in which he's asking, and how do they move? Vrajeta. What Arjuna is trying to ask is, see, anytime, even when we are a child, if we fix a goal based on what we've understood. You know, I was seeing one program about a young boy who wanted to go into the space program. And they asked, how did you, he became an astronaut later on. But when asked, how did you decide you wanted to do that? He said, I saw them on TV. I saw that presentation. Then I went to the museum and I saw the photograph. Seeing that, mine became sparked. Then I wanted to know how, even the athletes, how do they eat? What breakfast do they have? Breakfast of champions, they say, right? What is a breakfast of a champion? Right now I'm eating some bagel and something. Maybe they're having, very healthy oat bran or something. So I want to eat just like that so I can become strong like that. I can become, you know. So that is this fixing that goal. Even for our children, it's so important. That is why from young age they are taught all these stories, right? What is the story of Hanumanji, of my Lord Rama? When Lord Rama was faced with loss of the entire kingdom, how did Lord Rama respond? It says Lord Rama was prasanna. He was very happy actually. So Lord Rama was Stita Prajna. He was very fixed. So when we understand, Arjuna is asking for our sake, which is, if I'm going to set this as my goal, I should know, right? What is such a figure? How do they act? How do they behave? How can I connect to them? You know, it is almost like reverse engineering. Have you ever, you know, had some nice, for example, you taste one really nice rasam. You've never had it before. And you're feeling a little shy to ask the host. So then you're sipping it, you're trying to figure out, have they added something? What is the magic ingredient here? You know? Just recently, I had some of Swamiji's chai. And Swamiji, I was asking, Swamiji, what are you putting in this chai? My chai never comes out like this. He said, you're all taking my secrets. All the aunties there now, they're making. He said, everyone's figuring it out. But then I found out, oh, he puts that little anise seed. It's like that star shaped one. And you have to know exactly when to put the ginger. You should not put it along with everything else. Let everything boil, and at the end, you put the ginger along with that tea. This is a secret I'm telling you all, huh? So when I did that, then I thought, oh, this really tastes just like that. So Arjuna is trying to find out. Hmm? Can I? Because what happens, there's a very special phrase. We should all remember this phrase. What is it? Siddhakasya lakshanani. You all can repeat. Siddhakasya lakshanani. Sadhakasya sadhakasya sadhanani. Siddhakasya lakshanani. Sadhakasya sadhanani. What does that mean? The lakshanas, the qualities of the realized one, they become the sadhanas for the seeker. So, what comes naturally to the one in that state, we must absorb that and let it become our spiritual practice. So, this is Arjuna's question. How does that person act, walk, talk, sit? No? So that if I understand that, I can start to slowly imbibe those qualities. And eventually they become my natural state. Like, for example, when we were first in that course, we had to wake up early for 5:30 class. And I did not naturally have that practice, I will admit. And many days there's one temple, there's one small, beautiful Radha Krishna mandir outside of our classroom. And our Pandita, she will come there early, 4:30 in the morning to do, she'll do Pancha Puja, so many different things. So at the end of it, she'll have one Shankha and she'll blow it and ring the bell. 99% of the time, I was on time for class because I heard the bell. Oh my gosh, get up, come fast. So at first, it's not natural. You have to really put forth a lot of effort in order to have that quality. Then what happens is after 2 years of doing the same thing over and over and over again, then automatically what happens? Eyes will open at the right time. You don't have to think about it. It becomes a natural part of our daily functioning. And we found that after a while. At first, even to sit still for 1 hour without knee hurting, back hurting, used to be hard. We had one one of my batchmates, we used to laugh because for some reason he's very tall, and his knees used to be almost up by his ears. Like he used to sit like that. So he used to say, "How are you sitting this way?" At first, this is not easy. You have to practice. Then it becomes natural. So also Bhagavan Shri Krishna is going to go through a few verses. He's going to go through all of these different habits, different manner of being. And we can, in a small way, start to practice each of these things. And eventually, what happens? They become natural to us. But at first, even in Bhashya, it is said, it involves a lot of yatna. Yatna means effort. We must put in effort at first. Prayatna. Prayatnena. By great effort only this comes. It won't come just like that. Okay? All right. So let us see now, verse 55. Bhagavan is going to answer now. श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते. Chant together. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmanyevatmana tushtaha stita prajnastadochyate. Okay. So one is said, Uchyate, to be Sthita Prajna, who is Atmani Eva, Atmana Tushtaha. That person, what is the hallmark of that person? They are Tushta, totally satisfied by the self. Meaning, this self is Atma. By pure Satchitananda Brahman, they are totally satisfied with the self, their own self. That is why this word self is given, huh? It is not somebody else's self. That self is the self in me, self in each and every one of us. That self which pervades the cosmos, that one, as my own self, they are totally tushtaha, satisfied. And because of that, they are in a very unique state. What is that? Prajahati sarvan kaman manogatan. All the desires that have manogata, that are there lodged in the mind, for that realized one, what is their hallmark? Sarvan karman prajahati. All those karmas are eradicated, destroyed, removed. Hmm? This is really quite startling. All desires? All desires. You know? And why is that? Because they are satisfied with the self. They don't need something external. What is a desire? Desire is always something external to me. It is either an external state, it's an external object, external person, you know oh in my mind I can see myself sipping a nice fruit drink on the beach in Hawaii, and I look very happy there. A different state, that I'm desiring that state because I think there I'm going to be very tushta, happy, satisfied. But for this one, they need no external thing to make them satisfied. They are totally content. And the best example for this is, Thanksgiving is coming up. We're going to have Thanksgiving potluck. You eat from one side to the next. You eat every item on that table. We have put it inside. Then what happens at that moment when you have eaten everything and sometimes gone for seconds and thirds also? In the ashram, there's a restaurant there in the ashram, Garam Masala. And it used to be a buffet. Now it went, after COVID, we went to a la carte. But it was buffet, Sometimes we used to see some very interesting people. They'll come and they'll sit there from opening to close and they'll eat three times. I don't know how, and the full plate will be full, you know? They'll clean it out, they'll sit for 20 minutes, then they'll go back, fill again. So after you have eaten everything, very, very good, at that time, if someone comes to bring us one extra sweet, one extra savory, oh, it was in the kitchen, I forgot to bring it out. At that time, we say, absolutely not. I am full. I cannot fit even one more. This is called tushta, satisfaction, right? That I am so full that absolutely one other thing I cannot even entertain it. The thought also does not arise because I'm full, satisfied. So this is what is meant by Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha. They are totally satisfied with the self. See, it is a sadhana for us because for us to lessen our desires, we have to work hard at it. Okay, I'm going to be satisfied with this one roti. I'm not going to ask for another one because there's only three and there's three other people. Even though I'm hungry, I'm going to be, okay, Bhagavan, just. We have to say that, right? But we are working towards it. But for one who is in that state, it is their natural. It's their natural feeling. I don't need any other desire. What other desire is going to satisfy me? Earlier we saw in the same chapter 2 that it is like sarvata samplutodake, that uh, udapani, that small pond or well. You don't need to go to the small pond or well for water because you have an ocean's worth of water. You know, you have ocean's worth. For the one who is in that state, they have ocean's worth of bliss. What do they need? Some small thing, you know, some small vacation, some small, even the greatest accomplishment to become Brahmaji, even it is like a drop in the ocean of bliss. They are totally satisfied. It's hard for us to comprehend that. But what is it? And they are called as Sthita Prajna because why? Pratishtha aham asmi param brahma iti prajna. Their understanding is this. Aham asmi. I am that what? Param Brahma. I am that supreme self. Okay? Now, one thing that we should note here, right? This state cannot really be described. Bhagavan is giving us some indications, right? But it can't really be described. It can only be experienced, right? For example, if someone tells you about the taste of sugar, you can read. When I was a kid, you know, they used to have the big encyclopedias. You could flip to any page and they'll tell you the dodo bird. Now there's no dodo bird actually, it's extinct. But you can read. There's something called, actually, I don't remember what they're called, but they look like an antelope, but they have legs like a zebra. Have you seen that one? There's a word for that. See, some of you might not even know. There's one animal like that. It has, I've seen it at the zoo. It has brown body and it has legs like zebra. So you're reading the description. Oh, that's very interesting. And you can go and see it at the zoo also, and it'll be something separate. Hmm? But this is not something that can be described and seen like that. This is like describing the taste of sugar. You can read many, many words. Oh, it is taste very sweet on the tongue, you know, it is very, very nice tasting. You can read all that description, but can it ever amount, no matter how many words you read, can it amount to even one spoonful of sugar? Even one taste? Cannot. The taste is an experience, it is not a description. Hmm? Taste is an experience, it's not a description. So, also, we can study these things, definitely do all the practices, but no, eventually we must experience it for ourselves. Let it not be a description of somebody else's experience. Oh, Gurudev had realization. Good for him. You know, it should be our experience. But by reading it, see that pond frog and ocean frog, you know, the pond frog can never, even by wordly description, understand what is ocean. But the desire to see the ocean can be awoken in that frog. True or not? You know? You can never describe everything about the ocean. It is big, it is vast water. Okay, okay. But until he experiences it, but that desire can be awakened. So also this desire should be awoken in us, that Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha, to have that type of bliss. Oh, that sounds really amazing, you know? Okay. Now, there's another thing, which is, what is the difference between that Siddha and us? Sarvan Kaman. We have so many desires, so many different desires. But for that Siddha, removal of the desires, remember, the desire itself does not arise. For us, it is a practice. We have to practice that. We have to put forth effort. And with that effort, see, for example, we have to replace one desire with higher desire. Like we have right now, we have desire, oh, jalebi sounds really good. But I have a higher order desire. What is that? My doctor told me my blood sugar is high. So I have to watch what I eat so I can live longer. So then in that moment, what do? I have to cast out this lower desire for the sweet using a higher desire, which is, my desire is I should be healthy. So then that desire removes this other desire, but by force. I have to put forth that effort. Hmm? Now, for us to take up the dropping of desires as a practice, we need to have a higher desire in mind first. Hmm? That is how we practice it. How do we practice? Okay, if I give in to this desire at this moment, I am giving desire a greater hold on my mind. Therefore, as a spiritual practice, I'm going to practice giving up some desires. And desires come in all shapes and forms, Desire is any insistence on a particular outcome. Desire is any scheme for a future happiness. Can we take this up as a spiritual practice? In our study groups, we can all discuss this a little bit, right? How can I practice giving up desires? You can all think. Hmm? And in the it says that who is that Sthita Prajna? One who is tyakta, has dropped putra vitta lokeshana. Remember we talked about the three ashanas? The three ashanas are, putreshana means desire for progeny, procreation, all that physical pleasure. That is putreshana. Then vitteshana, vitta means wealth. So any desire for physical security, wealth, riches, comforts, all of these are called as vitteshana. And last one is lokeshana, desire for praise, recognition, satisfaction of ego. Hmm? And the order has been given in this way. Who is that sthita prajna? One who has tyakta, dropped all the desires of putra, vitta, and lokeshana. Eshana means desires. So putra, vitta, and loka. Why has it been given in that order? Because anytime we're taking up a practice, you have to start with the small things first. Baby steps, don't they say? So you have to take baby steps. So the easiest desires are actually some of these physical desires. It is much easier to drop the desire for jalebi than it is to drop the desire for recognition and appreciation. Because jalebi is physical, you take it. I don't want it. Or put it somewhere where I can't see. That is why I used to see they had that what is it? The that show where all the people who are trying to lose weight, they put them in the room with all the sweets and they say you can't touch them. But we can at least put it in a different place, go somewhere else, so that can be possible. Hmm? But the desire for recognition, desire for appreciation, desire to be liked, these are very subtle desires. It's very hard to remove them. You cannot see them. We cannot put them in a different room. They are there with us all the time. So we have to start with basic physical disciplines are always the easiest to implement. That is why puja is that first prescribed sadhana. you know, because every sense is involved in the puja. Did you know? When you, first of all, for puja, they say there are certain things that must always be there. First is Murti of Bhagavan must be there. Then there should be some flowers to offer, some agarbatti, you have to light the incense. Then you have to have some naivedyam, some food, and you have to chant, sing, recite the mantras. Hmm? If we look through the steps of the puja, we should see the puja is not for Bhagavan's sake, huh? Puja is for our sake. Each aspect of that puja utilizes some aspect of our senses. We have five senses. So the form of the Bhagavan is there. That is for the eyes. Chanting and recitation of the mantras, bhajans, it is for the ears. Offering of the flowers, the soft petals, that is for the sense of touch. Offering the cloth also, vastram. Lighting that incense, it is for the sense of smell. And naivedyam is for the sense of taste. So what do we do? That puja harnesses all of the senses and concentrates the mind through the senses. Amazing thing, actually. In Upadesha Sara, each of these steps are given actually. So first is puja. Then what is the next spiritual practice? Next is doing chanting. They have Ucha, Manda, Chittadam, Japa. What is the chanting? First is loud chanting, Ucha. So in the temple you'll hear. Sometimes you don't know what they're chanting, but you hear some chanting. So Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya, Om Namaste Rudramanyava Utota Ishave Namaha. So you hear Rudram. So then that is called Ucha, loud chanting. Then what is next? Then Manda, do it a little softer. So in your puja room, with your japa mala, you chant Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So it becomes quieter. Then Chittajam, that which is born in the mind. So you close the eyes, Aham Brahmasmi, that chanting goes on in the mind. Repeating of the great Mahavakyas. Notice that first all the senses are being used. Then a little bit less. Ucha, you chant loudly, you're also hearing. Then a little softer. Then you're not getting even outside sound, it is only happening in the mind. So we have to work our way up to that. You know what it's like? It's like when we first learn how to ride a bike. Our parents, they give us the bike with the training wheels on them. Have you seen? I saw one bike, it is actually low to the ground so that your feet can touch, or you can lift up the feet, but you can be your own brakes basically, right? And so eventually you remove the training wheels, then you're on a two-wheeler. And if you're really advanced, you remove one of those wheels also, and you're on a unicycle. Some people can do unicycle. So what happens? The supports, you slowly remove the supports as you become more and more independent and skilled. So also when we're talking about dropping our desires, we have to start with the most obvious ones first. They become our training wheels. Then slowly, slowly, you start to observe ourselves, and then you drop subtler desires until finally, the most subtle desire of all. See, lokeshana, we have to see a little bit here, huh? Lokeshana is tied to a sense of I want some recognition for myself. It's tied to my sense of individual identity, right? So the final thing that has to drop, and don't get scared, no one's asking us to do this right now. It's final. So the final thing that has to get dropped is this sense of individual identity. Because it's the individual, remember we were seeing, it's the individual that has all the problems. What is going to happen to me? What is going to happen to my body, my children, my family, when I die, what will happen to me? This individual is the one that has all these fears. So the final state is to drop that sense of individual identity and become one with ourself. So instead of this small jiva, I identify with that self which is pervading all beings. It's hard to grasp that. But that state is beyond all desires. How can I desire something outside of myself? You know? Like, have you ever, see, we can think, I desire a vacation. I desire to go here. But have you ever looked and said, I desire this hand, my hand? Not you, my hand, but my hand. Have I ever said that? I have never said, oh, I really desire this hand. Because why? It's a part of me. I can't desire something else that is a part of me, only something outside. So this self also, it is not an object of desire. It is my own self. Now, there was once a thief. He came up in front of the judge. And the judge said, you are accused of stealing, robbing money from your employer. You took it from the safe. How do you plead? He said, Your Honor, I plead not guilty. And not guilty? How? There's all the proof is there that you did it. He said, Your Honor, I didn't do it. My hand, on its own accord, it went there and it took that money. It wasn't my fault. It did it all by itself. Judge said, okay, no problem. I sentence your hand to 20 years in prison. You can accompany it if you wish. That is a part of us. This awareness pervades this entire body. We don't think about it too often, huh? But our awareness pervades every iota of our being. This same awareness, is present in all things and beings. In the farthest reaches of the cosmos, our mind has touched that also. Our awareness has touched that. If someone tells you there are many galaxies outside of the Milky Way, we are touching that idea with the mind only. And that mind, that idea, is composed of nothing but pure awareness, consciousness. That is our true nature. And knowing that every object of my awareness, this is a little subtle to understand, but let's just think about it a little bit, right? Awareness through the mind takes on the form of different objects. That which is shrotavyasya shrutasya cha, that which I'm hearing about, it's only an object in my mind. That object is made of pure chit. Knowing chit, I know that object. So therefore, I don't need to desire any object. I am all things. Like for example, if you go into the potter's shop and we see big pot, small pot. One pot is like a scorpion. One pot is like one clay figure is like the scorpion. One clay figure is like Lord Rama. So many different forms are there. But once I take one of those forms and look deeply into it, what do I see there? Even though it has the form and shape and height of pot, what I am touching there is nothing but clay. Every object there is nothing but clay. Once I know clay, I know every object. Once I know myself as the self, I know every object of awareness because I am that. Therefore, I don't need to desire anything because what is that desire? It's nothing but that awareness, nothing but that chit only. And that is me. This whole world, do you know, when we go to sleep at night, this whole world folds in. There's no world for us also. It is only available when the mind is there. So whatever desire, sarvan kaman prajahati, it's very, very, very deep actually. They do not, man of realization has no desire for anything externally because he knows that awareness of mind pervades all things and beings. Therefore, I don't need to externalize anything. Right. So, he is also known, this is also a very nice phrase to describe him. He is alam pratyayavan. That one is alam pratyayavan. Alam means the word enough. enough. Pratyayavan, one who has this pratyaya. Pratyaya means this thought, pervading thought all the time, which is enough, complete, done. Quite amazing phrase. Alam Pratyayavan. His mind, why does it not entertain desires? Because it is always feeling satisfied enough. Like on Christmas Day, or we should really, maybe Diwali Day. Kids, they'll get all that present, until that moment that they got it. They're anxiously anticipating, oh, I can't wait to get it. I can't wait to get it. But once they get, for a little while at least, they won't ask you for anything because they got that present, you know? So, for one who has obtained their own self, they are feeling, I have enough. Nothing more is required. Alam pratyaya. And this word is Sanskritam is extremely interesting language. Do you know this word anala? You know what? Is it there in Hindi? Anal? No? Anala means fire. And the explanation for this word anala is na alam iti. Fire is that which never says enough. Isn't that interesting? Fire says never it'll say enough. Oh, yes, you have fed me enough forests. You have fed me enough houses. California, I'm from California, that's we come from place of the fires. It never says enough. It goes on wanting more and more. Desire is like that. It is a fire. Desire never says enough. Only the self, only our own self can quench the fire of desires. Okay? To be that one. All right. So there's a lot of very interesting things here, but the main thing we have to remember is all of the description that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is going to give. The main thing is to remember Siddhakasya Lakshanani Sadhakasya Sadhanani. They are our sadhanas. How can we take it up? We can discuss it now in the study group. Uh, I have to go to the other class, but Meenaji, please write them and we'll answer them next class, definitely. Please, any questions, keep note of them and we will answer them. Maybe we'll have time for one. Mhm. Yes. I'll repeat the question. Yeah.
So my question was that you said that the self must be experienced.
Mhm.
You can only experience through your senses, and the Atma is beyond your senses.
Mhm.
So how can you say the self must be experienced?
This is a very good question, These are all the limitations of language. If someone asks us, okay, if I ask someone, please bring me some water to drink. Swami Tapovanji asked this because Gurudev asked the same question. So Swami Tapovanji said, bring me some water. Oh, the question is, sorry, I should have repeated the question. If that Atma is not an experience but is our own self, how can we say experience of the self? Now, language is always limited in that we have to use words to describe something beyond words. Just like if someone says, I want water, you cannot bring that water without a cup. The cup is not the water, but the cup is the vessel to bring. So, also, when we say experience of the self, at this very moment, we are experiencing the self only. We are, we are the self. We are free at this very moment. At this very moment, the self is available in every cognition. Pratibodha viditam matam, that comes in Kenopanishad. What we have to do is remove the doubt that I am not the self. Then you simply see, you don't need to create the sun. You just remove the clouds that are blocking the sun. But words, we have to use words like experience the self because we are in the realm of experience. But really, ultimately, all we have to do is be still.
I think what happens is when we say experience, people expect that a realized person goes
Oh,
through an experience.
right,
There is
right.
light and thunder and
Yeah,
lightning and various things. And it's not like it's just the removal of ignorance.
exactly. And being with oneself. But for us in the realm of experience, that's there's no way to get around it, kind of. But that is why so much, so many verses are there, so many scriptures are there, because you go on reflecting on the ideas, and slowly, slowly, those things get cleared up. That's a very good question. Okay, so just quick, briefly. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. We'll see more next week. Qualities of the Siddha.